Well, I did horrible things to my Skyrim again. I made one of these character builds. Originally, I just wanted to remake my sword mage build from a while ago, but then I thought I wanted the build to be easier to handle than the sword mage, also using frost instead of fire, and also using some of the excellently overpowered Anniversary Edition spells from the Chest of Broken Doom in the Hops Fall Cave in the north. The Blizzard Blade has most of her spells automatically cast at her at the start of each fight due to some perfectly balanced spell mods, and 2 more spells on steroids cast on her while she prays to Magnus before combat. If you think this is too much, that it breaks the game, the answer is yes it does. On the other hand, as is usual with my builds, there is no restoration loop involved or any other vanilla exploit. It will take a lot of work to get to the levels of power shown in the video. A lot of your playthrough will be noticeably less broken. You will rely on the Nightblade spell teleporting you to enemies and quick bursts of the Unbounded Freezing spell paralyzing your foes momentarily, as well as on Paralysis Rune to paralyze them for a bit longer, and of course on the strength of your sword arm. You need to grind your crafting skills and your relationship with the gods in order to become the Winter Incarnate. She is a snow elf who avoided the fate of her brethren by becoming a vampire. She wakes up after centuries or millennia even of slumber, hungry and angry and consumed by vengeance. She wants to destroy all the dwarfs. Pity there are no more dwarves around, because now her vengeful feelings have no direction and will just explode at random. However, as she works on creating the immensely powerful Stalrim sword and lays out her violent urges on the world, she slowly discovers the value of hard work and worship and friendship and such niceties, slowly but steadily redeeming herself, praying to Lord Magnus and Zenithar, defeating dragons, switching from the mindless villain archetype to the dark hero archetype almost seamlessly. In the late game you may even choose to cure her vampirism, as you won't need the Necromage synergy anymore. I like the fact that I was able to throw Necromage on top of all the other synergies, so I stayed the Child of the Night. We want a handful of mods, which are all interacting with each other in all sorts of interesting and perfectly balanced ways. Vokrii perk overhaul has a few perks perfect for the Spellsword and Nightblade characters, like the Raw Power Destruction perk or Okato's Preparation, casting your best armor spells on you automatically when a fight starts. Summermyst has a number of useful enchantments, chiefly the Amplified Distraction, the one that enhances the damage dealt by your spells. This combines horribly well with Wintersun. In Wintersun you can worship Zenithar to improve all your crafting skills, allowing you to create some rather impressive Fortify enchanting potions, Fortify alchemy enchantments, and most of all, in the end, Fortify distraction potions fit for a Daedric prince. After our relationship with Zenithar is maxed and our late game gear is made, we switch to the worship of Magnus, though actually we can start with Magnus, switch to Zenithar after level 20 or so, and aim for the crafting of our OP gear at some point in the mid-30s, just to switch back to Magnus at that point. We use Andromeda Standing Stones too, because, well, the Atronach Stone in this one will enhance all your spells, including the damage of your distraction spells. Again, you will only regain magicka by slaying enemies, but people will drop like flies around you, so that's a good trade-off, that's perfectly balanced. Imperious races were also used so that I can have even more spells cast automatically on a customizable trigger condition. Then we have a collection of lovely spell mods Apocalypse, so that we can use the dreadful Okato's Recital, having 3 free spells each fight, and also for the fun of the Frost Nova spell exploding frost around you to stack with your terrible enhanced Frost Cloak. The Odin spells, where we have the spell trigger for yet another free spell cast, as well as Frost Hand to deal substantial damage in melee range, and most importantly, Freezing Strikes, dealing some ample frost damage with each power attack. Then we have Triumvirate for the Shadow spells, which just In the end, you will have up to 6 spells cast on you for free at the start of a fight, and 2 spells cast and extended via praying to Magnus, which means your left hand will be used mostly for 1 or 2 spells: Anniversary Edition or Arcane Grimoire spells, the Unbounded Freezing and Paralysis Rune. They are, of course, perfectly balanced. I am sorry, I feel bad for the bandits. I also needed a little mod to make the Ancient Falmer armor a clothing item, because some super balanced Summermyst enchants only go on clothing. And winter is coming, Cloaks of Skyrim for the looks. These 2 mods have no impact on the gameplay, so if you want some different aesthetic, they are easily skippable. The attributes ratio is something like 2 points of magicka per 3 of health per 2 of stamina. Slightly more magicka could prove useful, but the worship of Magnus makes all our spells dirty cheap. The main reason to even invest in magicka is the Nightblade spell. It teleports you to the enemy you have at your crosshair when swinging a weapon and immediately deals excessive raw magic damage to them. The damage is based on your current magicka. The Atronach Stone then restores your magicka because you just slain an enemy, so you can have an endless cycle of Nightblade jumps. Awesome! Balanced!
I can take you.
The race is a High Elf. Imperious High Elves have an interesting mechanic. You can obtain the Contingency ability, allowing you to set up a trigger condition for a spell to be cast for free. I mainly used to trigger the Frost Nova when I cast another spell. This has a 60 seconds cooldown, but still every once in a while, when I cast any spell, Frost Nova makes me explode in ice for extra damage to anything around me. By the way, I also used the Knowledge is Power spell to use Frost Nova spell as a daily power. This is important because I have the Power Surge enchantment on my sword, an enchantment that has a chance to trigger your currently selected power on a hit. In our case, it's 131% chance, so each time we hit something there is an explosion of ice around us from the Frost Nova, as well as the other explosion from the freezing strikes in front of us. This is fine, this is balanced, it's okay, shh, it's okay Skyrim, it's fine. High Elves also get all their enchantment effects slightly increased, which we will stack with a Necromage Vampire buff, because we can. I didn't bother with a custom Snow Elf race. Snow Elves are basically some really pale High Elves in Skyrim Creation Kit, and the Imperious High Elves have exactly the buffs I wanted. The standing stone is the Atronach as mentioned, though you may wanna start with the Mage or even the Apprentice and only switch to the Atronach once your magic skills guarantee some decent cost reduction. The deity is Magnus and Zenithar. As explained, you will alter between the two. Switch to Zenithar once you have some of your key enchantments secure and you know you can survive a few levels without Magnus's amazing spell cost reduction. After crafting your amazing endgame gear, switch back to Magnus. Now the skills. We perk Destruction, Alteration, Enchanting, Smithing, Alchemy, One-Handed Sneak and a little bit of Restoration. Restoration can be easily replaced or skipped, and Smithing could be used perkless, especially if you can find or buy a Stalrim sword in Raven Rock or the Skull Village, so Smithing and Restoration can be considered secondary skills for this build. First and foremost, in Destruction we need all the Frost perks and the right-hand side perks up to Elemental Shield. Raw Power, all 3 ranks, will enhance your Nightblade spell. It will eventually deal 3000 damage when you are on max magicka. That's without your best fortified destruction potion. With your best potion, it's 7200 damage. It's I'm sorry.
they ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Chilling frost is of utmost importance. It makes the targets of your frost spells 15% weaker to frost. This stacks with another top priority, perk Hethot's Disjunction, which makes enemies affected by your frost cloak spell 25% weaker to frost, so that's 40% total. But we also stack that with Area Drain Magic Resist enchantment, which makes all nearby enemies 25% weaker to all magic. Elemental Shield will combine with your Vampire Frost resistance, maxing out your frost resistance when the Frost Cloak is in effect, and it is in effect all the time! In Alteration we need Mage Armor, all the ranks, Magic Resistance 3 out of 3, then Sorcerer's Robes, so yet another buff to all our spells on top of all Amplify and Fortify Destruction effects, as well as on top of the Atronax Stone, balanced. Okatos Preparation as always to use with the Dragonhide eventually, and Stability to make it last longer. Battle Mage, allowing you to deal more damage with your spells to the targets of your weapon attacks, will become redundant eventually, but can be mighty helpful mid-game, especially with Frost Hand spell in your left hand. In one-handed we could really use Victory Rush at the top there. It allows you to regain some stamina when you slay an enemy. Stamina can be a bit problematic for the build considering the focus on magicka and health and the lack of stamina related enchantments and the weight of our Stalrim sword. However, if you don't mind chugging an overpowered stamina regeneration potion from time to time, you may as well skip the entire sword branch and only take Disciplined Fighter here for some slight stamina cost reduction. Sneak is going to be helpful early game, and we aim for the Escape Artist here because it can be wonderfully, deliciously abused with all the automatically triggered spells. Escape Artist makes you hidden instantly if you crouch mid-combat. It means even if you are discovered immediately, the game thinks one fight situation has ended and another has started. It means all the spells that are triggered at a start of each combat are refreshed. This is amazingly useful in case your armor or freezing strikes or frost cloak suddenly runs out. Then in Restoration we of course need the Necromage perk because it enhances all the effects, magic effects on vampires and undead, and we are undead and a vampire, and of course it makes all our enchantments, worn enchantments, better. And it stacks with the Zenithar boons. Apparently vampires should worship Zenithar. There is some wisdom to extract from that, I'm sure. In Enchanting, we take all the perks necessary to maximize the effects of our handmade items with extra effect, of course, and the same minimalist approach is applied to other crafting skills. So only Mastery and Benefactor in Alchemy, and only the perks required for Stalrim Smithing in Smithing. I did loop Enchanting and Alchemy once, meaning my first set of Fortify Alchemy items was used to make a Fortify Enchanting potion that was later used to make another set of Fortify Alchemy items, which was then used to make a whole batch of even better Fortify Enchanting potions. With these potions I started crafting my endgame set.
Time to end this little game.
Now for the goddamn gear, or God-blessed gear in this instance, because Zenithar makes it extra OP, really OP. First of all, the wonderful Stalrim Sword of Frost Hazard and Power Surge. Frost Hazard gets an increase in effectiveness when placed on Stalrim, as well as from Augmented Frost, of course, and from our High Elf abilities, and from Amplify Destruction enchantment, meaning it deals 211 damage per second for 11 seconds in a small area beneath the enemies you hit with your sword.
This is blasphemy. This is madness!
It will also apply these boosts in efficiency to the other effect on the same weapon, Power Surge in this instance. Usually, Power Surge has no more than, say, 15% chance to trigger your currently selected power on hit. Because of all the buffs, however, it's 131% chance for us. You can use it, say, with the Mora's Boon Black Book power to constantly and perpetually heal all three of your attributes. Or, like in the video, I used the Knowledge is Power spell to use Frost Nova spell as a power, meaning we explode in a burst of ice with each hit. Balanced. Ice Storm is another good spell to use this way. I named the sword the Chill, because Chill Rend was taken, sad face. Diadem of the Savant in Reliquary of Myth mod will automate one self-targeting spell for us, on top of its normal spell cost reduction. I used it to automate the Freezing Strikes spell, dealing 320 frost damage in a small burst with each successful power attack, unless we drink our best Fortified Destruction, when it's 770 damage. Balanced. The rest of the enchantments mainly serve the purpose of maximizing the spell damage, unsurprisingly, and offsetting some of our weaknesses. We have two instances of Amplified Destruction. We have Siphon Magicka, which absorbs magicka from nearby enemies, offsetting the lack of magicka regeneration we suffer because of the Atronach Stone. We have two elemental resistances on the shoes, Fire and Shock. Because of all the perks and Zenitar worship, these will reach the resistance cap for both elements and actually exceed it greatly. So even with our vampiric weakness to fire, we will still just about reach the effective cap of 85% resistance. Balanced! The Ring of Fortify Health and Link Health and Magicka will make us somewhat beefy for a hybrid build, as well as providing extra power for the Nightblade spell. Balanced! And here we have the full list of spells, the most frequently used ones at least. Most of them will be just placed on you when a fight starts. As mentioned, we put Freezing Strikes in the Diadem of the Savant to always cause mini frost bursts with power attacks. Then we use Okato's Recital to get the Frost Cloak, Shadow Stride and Nightblade in each fight for free. Okato's spell trigger was used to do the same with the Shadow Dance spell. Shadow Dance allows us to teleport at short distances when jumping, for a small cost in magicka, of course. This is most useful early to mid-game when you still need to think in combat, but even later in the hardest fights, suddenly blinking away from a dragon attack can be very useful, especially with the Nightblade spell, which allows you to instantly close the gap between you and your target again if you want. It makes for a really useful hit and run tactics when you use Nightblade to get close and deal a ton of damage quickly, and then if the enemy still stands, somehow you can jump backwards to instantly gain some distance. Balanced! Then Stave of Ferocity and Troll's Blood were cast when praying to Magnus. They last much longer this way. Stave of Ferocity makes the targets of your power attacks 25% weaker to your spells, which stacks with another 25 to all enemies around from Area Drain Magic Resist, and with a 30% weakness applied with any of your attacks with the Battle Mage perk. So 80% weakness to magic tops, plus 40% weakness to frost applied by your destruction perks. Balanced! For the spells you actively use, it's mostly unbounded freezing, yes. It is a concentration Frost Cloak spell which stacks with a normal Frost Cloak and also freezes enemies solid for a bit. It's not even a modded spell, it's an official piece of Bethesda content, and it is so broken I can't even begin to describe it, especially when you use it in short bursts instead of holding it up constantly. This way nearby foes will be constantly falling to the ground and then try to stand back up like really slowly while you hack and slash them. I also used Spell Twine, of course, to add a healing effect to this broken spell. Just balanced. Right. So it's the time for the summary. It is now the time to say goodbye. Subscribe and share and like and the like. I don't really like reading this part, so I will just end the video abruptly.